Discover 2 hours of spine-chilling haunted stories with sinister rain sounds to expose your fears. Sarah had hoped Maple Grove would be a fresh start, a cozy haven for her and her children, Alex and Lily. But on this stormy evening, as the rain slammed against their small house, it felt more like a prison. The air was thick with a kind of unease that settled over the neighborhood like a shroud. She shivered, pulling the blanket tighter around her shoulders while the wind howled, sending shivers down her spine. The whispers seemed to seep through the worn walls. They were almost palpable, brushing against her ears, teasing her with secrets she'd never intended to uncover. "Just the wind," she muttered, though her heart raced in defiance. Outside, the shadows lurked, stretching beyond the reach of her porch light, where the manicured lawns turned to darkened corners of forgetfulness. It was quiet, too quiet. The tranquility became its own source of terror. Alex and Lily, oblivious to their mother's rising tension, giggled as they played with their toys, completely unaware of the sinister undercurrent lurking outside their windows. But something was watching them. The children had been warned about the old school nearby, the one that clung to its years of abandonment like a cobweb. Sarah recalled a neighbor's absent gaze when she casually mentioned the building. "It's best left alone," they had warned, a shadow crossing their warm smile. Each night, as the rain picked up, she felt the weight of that warning settle heavier in her mind. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, jarring her from anxious thoughts. An unknown number blinked on the screen. Heart pounding, she opened the text. "They're here." A cold sweat broke out as she glanced at her children. Playing, laughing, unaware of the murky tendrils of dread creeping closer. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The rain intensified, each drop splattering like a drumbeat of impending doom. Every now and then, flickering shapes shifted just outside her vision. "Sarah." She heard a faint whisper, like a name carried by the wind, wrapping around her throat like a noose. Her instincts screamed at her to gather the kids and flee, but where to go? She couldn't abandon the only home they had left. That night, while the storm raged, she made a decision. She needed to know what was hidden in Maple Grove. The next day, she dug into the town's history, speaking with older folks at the library, peeling back layers of time. Hidden whispers spoke of a little girl who vanished long before Sarah's family arrived. A deathly chill filled the air as she realized something chilling: the girl had looked just like Lily. With frantic breaths and trembling hands, Sarah pieced together fragmented stories. It all led back to the neighbors who had once seemed so inviting. Maybe their friendly faces weren't what they appeared. Just as she thought she'd secured a plan to protect her family, she spotted them, dark figures gliding across her yard, whispering her children's names. The curtain of rain fell heavier. Dread washed over her like a flood, each heartbeat echoed by the pounding of raindrops. Sarah felt an icy breath on her neck. This time, it didn't belong to the storm. In that moment, she understood the real threat loomed in the friendly facade of the very community meant to shield them. Could she shield her kids from a horror that thrived on fear, or would the darkness finally claim them? Gripped by that question, she pressed closer to the window, her heart hammering as shadows danced just out of reach. Sarah's breath caught as she watched the shadows move, uncertain if her eyes deceived her. With every flicker of lightning, they leaped toward the sky, clear and immediate before melting back into the night. Her heart pounded against her ribcage, desperate to break free as she clutched the curtain, willing it to block out the menacing figures. "Mommy." Lily's voice pierced through the tension, dragging Sarah momentarily away from the window. The child's innocent tone felt so out of place amidst the encroaching horror. Alex played mindlessly, shielding her sister from the dark reality looming just beyond their fragile walls. "Why don't you both come sit with me?" Sarah suggested, her voice strained but calm. Their laughter echoed in the dim light, sweet yet interrupted by a low rumble of thunder that vibrated through the house. The growing noise felt like it was taunting her, agreeing with the shadows outside. She knelt, gathering her children in her arms, their warmth a flicker of safety amid chaos. But as she wrapped her arms around them, cold fingers brushed against her skin, chilling her from the inside out. Something was wrong. She couldn't shake the feeling, the presage of danger laced into the very fabric of the air. "Will it rain forever, Mommy?" Lily asked, her eyes wide with innocence. For a fleeting moment, Sarah wished she could tell her that rain was just rain, that shadows could be vanquished with the dawn. But she couldn't shake the memories of what she learned of the little girl they lost. "Just for tonight," Sarah replied, forcing a smile, her heartbeat steadying only in the presence of her children's proximity. The children's laughter faded as the thunder rolled louder, vibrating through the house with a warning. Sarah felt compelled to move, to check the doors, to know every lock was in place. She couldn't afford any mistakes. Not now. Not with that sinister chill lingering at her back. Leaving the kids bundled up in the living room, she quietly stepped into the hallway. Each creak of the floorboards felt exaggerated, like shrieks echoing back at her. Clutching her phone, she fought against the urge to call for help. Who would believe her? Who could possibly understand what was brewing in Maple Grove? As she neared the front door, she noticed the paintings hung on the wall, portraits of the smiling townsfolk, their eyes glimmering with secrets that glowed eerily under the dim light. She jerked her head away, focusing on the door. A pounding sound made her flinch, forcing her breath to quicken. It wasn't the rain. Someone or something was knocking. Shadows swirled outside, sharp points darting in and out of the darkness. The children's giggles stilled, replaced by a sudden foreboding silence that swallowed every sound in the house. "Mommy?" Alex called out, the fear in his voice pulling at her heart. "I'm right here," she replied, but her voice trembled. Without thinking, she slid the deadbolt into place and turned the lock, every click echoing in the stillness. The knocking began again, relentless. "Let us in, Sarah." The voices were chillingly familiar, dripping with malice and echoing of the same secrets buried beneath the surface of Maple Grove. She could feel the walls closing in, the air thickening with menace. What did they want? What did they know? With shaking hands, she reached for the phone, ready to call for help when a sudden, sharp clap of thunder exploded outside, darkening the room, plunging them into an abyss of shadows. The lights flickered, and for a fleeting moment, Sarah saw the shapes outside, luminous eyes peering back, hungry and predatory. The storm and the whispers raged. Could she unravel the truth hiding within her new home before it consumed her family? She turned back to the children, their terrified faces illuminated by the fleeting light. "Get behind me," she urged as they clung to her, shivering. But the shadows whispered again, less a sound than a rush of air. "You can't hide, Sarah. You are one of us." What had she brought to her family? As she felt the walls tremble around her, the echoes of laughter morphed into sinister giggles. The grip of fear tightened once more around her throat. It was time to confront what lay beyond the door or risk losing everything. But would she survive the night? The rain pounded harder, and the power flickered out, plunging them into darkness. Sarah's heart raced as she gripped the edges of hope. Would the dawn bring clarity, or would it only usher in her family's darkest nightmare? The dark pressed down hard, swallowing every inch of the room around them. Sarah's heart pounded, each beat loud in her ears, a frantic drum calling her to action. The flickering shadows danced across the walls like lost souls trapped within. "Mommy, I'm scared," Lily's whisper cut through the encroaching panic, her small fingers gripping Sarah's shirt as if it was made of iron. "I know, baby. Just hold on to me," Sarah murmured, trying to calm herself as much as her children. But she could feel the cold seep into her bones, a creeping dread that wrapped tightly around her. She turned, the air thick with uncertainty, and stared at the door, debating whether to open it or not. "Let us in, Sarah." We're waiting. Those voices again, mingling with the wind and the rain, sent a shiver down her spine. They felt so familiar, too familiar, like drownings recalled from the depths of painful memory. They were echoes of laughter twisted into something sharper, something that sent nausea spiraling through her gut. "Where are you?" Alex's small voice broke through the knot of fear. "Right here," she repeated, her voice steadier now. She needed to be strong for them. "Mommy, make it stop." Lily's sobs emerged as a soft wail, unraveling the threads of Sarah's resolve. "I am trying," she said, eyes darting to the window. Rain lashed against the old glass, a relentless army throwing itself at their sanctuary. Outside, the shadows seemed to grow larger, taking on grotesque shapes, elongating and shifting with every bolt of lightning. Then, a sudden crack shook the house, followed by the soft whimpering of the children. "What was that?" Alex asked, his voice tightly wound. "Nothing, just the storm," she lied, thoughts racing. Maybe if she could distract them, they wouldn't see the fear gnawing at her core, a dark hunger she couldn't ignore. "Let us play a game, okay? Now?" Lily sniffed, distrust shadowing her innocent features. "Yes, a special game," Sarah insisted, forcing a smile that wavered. "A hiding game. You both can hide and I'll count to 20. They hesitated, and she felt the doubt creep in. Could she still anchor them in safety? "Okay." Alex finally agreed, taking Lily's small hand and pulling her toward the hallway. "Count fast," Lily called back as they rounded the corner. "Promise not to peek." Alex shouted, the familiar beat of their laughter merging with the storm's fury momentarily silencing her fears. But as soon as the sounds faded, the house felt fuller, yet emptier, a hollow reverberation of what once was. It took only seconds for the shadows to creep back in, wrapping themselves around her. Gripping the wall, she closed her eyes and counted. The numbers echoed in her head. Each tick of her voice increased the fear creeping behind her, the whispering shadows crawling closer. 8, 9. The fear turned into urgency. She needed to be ready when the game ended. Finding a light would help. She rushed to the kitchen, her heart racing, driven by instinct as dark thoughts festered in her mind. What were the children really hiding from? 12, 13. She slid her fingers across the counter, searching for anything: a flashlight, a battery. Instead, her hand brushed something cold and smooth, an old knife. Grasping it felt wrong, but in the madness around her, it felt necessary. 17, 18. She glanced back toward the hallway, dread pooling in her stomach. Had she gone too far? Were they safe? 19, 20. Time was up. The silence stretched, thick with tension. "Okay, you can come out now," she called. But no laughter came. Just the heavy pounding of the rain against the roof, too loud, too ominous. And then a soft sound echoed through the darkness, a giggle, chilling and hauntingly familiar. "Mommy, we found a secret." Her skin prickled. What secret? What had they unearthed in their game? Children? Her voice was a whisper now, fear curling in her throat as shadows flickered, revealing shapes that seemed to twist and swirl. "They're waiting for you." What had they discovered while hiding? Suddenly, the lights fluttered back to life for an instant. The hallway was empty. Had they vanished? She stumbled backward, breath quickening. The shadowed figures waited just beyond the door. She could feel their pull through the cracks, the horror of what could be waiting inside, waiting for her to turn. And their laughter, would it break her? Would it drag her, too, into the secrets of Maple Grove? Sarah took a step forward, knife gripped tight, heart racing. Before she could reconsider, a voice shattered the darkness, echoing from the hallway. "You're too late, Sarah." Their hours now the terror gripped her anew. Would she uncover the truth, or would the shadows claim everything? The shadows gathered like thick fog, swirling around Sarah, their whispers a dark symphony of despair. She could almost see them, cloaked figures with twisted smiles, always just beyond the edges of her vision, lurking in the corners of the hallway. Their hours now the voice echoed in her mind, dragging her further into fear's grasp. Alex. Lily. Panic clawed at her throat, desperation rising. She turned, clutching the knife with trembling hands, her heart racing louder than the thunderstorm outside. There was no answer, only that haunting giggle still echoing through the darkness. What had they found? With resolve firming her grip, she rushed into the hallway, a foolish wave of courage filling her. The light flickered again, casting wild shadows that danced grotesquely across the walls. Each shuddering pulse of light revealed glimpses of what felt like twisted faces, mocking her with their familiarity. "Mommy!" Alex called again, his voice shaky, but tinged with an excited giggle, like he was playing a game instead of calling for help. "Come find us." She turned sharply, moving towards the living room, instinctively searching for them. "This isn't funny. Come out now." A wave of impatience surged within her. They were hiding, playing their little game, and all she had to do was find them. Yet each step deepened her dread, shadows dragging her backward, whispering words she couldn't understand but felt resonated with her very soul. The storm crashed outside, a crashing sea of wind and rain. Sarah felt the walls pressing in, echoing with a suffocating heaviness, as if the house itself was alive and wanted to swallow her whole. But just beyond the din, she caught the sound of a soft, tinkling laughter, lilting and chilling. "Follow us, Mommy." The darkness surged, enveloping her in a shroud that made her senses dull. The living room looked altered, as if time had shifted, the furniture set strangely like a twisted scene from a dream. Increasingly, she found herself drawn toward a door at the back of the room, a door she could scarcely remember seeing. "Wait! Stop running!" She reached for the door handle, pausing only for a heartbeat. Was this a trap? The laughter grew louder, almost shrill with excitement, as if they were inviting her to step into a desolate melody. With her heart pounding, she turned the knob and pulled, the door creaking open like a tomb. Inside, it was pitch black. Her mind screamed caution as instinct told her to pull back. Yet, the children's voices filled the void, lightening the dark like fireflies in an endless night. "Mommy, it's a secret place. You have to see." Desperation clawed at her throat. She stepped through, squinting into the inky black, feeling a cold draft wrap around her, almost a living thing. The moment she entered, the door behind her slammed shut, the noise shocking in the silence that followed. Unnerved, she reached out, her fingers brushing against stone walls that pulsed with something electric. "Alex? Lily?" The only response was silence, eerily echoing her own breathing. She turned slowly, feeling shifting shadows circle, and then she saw them. They stood at the far end of the corridor, their backs turned, staring into nothingness. "Come closer, Mommy," Alex said, barely above a whisper. "They want to show you." Deep in her gut, a sense of foreboding spiraled, twisting around her insides. "Show me what?" "Your truth." Lily's voice chimed sweetly, yet it dripped with something sinister. The shadows heightened, pressing against her, crackling with anticipation. Were they leading her toward salvation, or deeper into damnation? "Mommy, don't be afraid." But she couldn't shake the chill creeping through her veins. "Come find out." Driven by a mother's love, she took a hesitant step forward, knife still ready, heart racing. They turned in unison, faces no longer those of her children but shifting masks, a haunting reminder of innocent joys warped into horror. And the corridor began to shimmer, revealing glimpses of twisted realities, glimpsing truths she wasn't ready to face. Join us, Sarah. Would she dare confront the horror waiting at the end, or would she be lost forever in the nightmares of her own making? With each step forward, the shadows beckoned, and the choice loomed, thick like the darkness around her. Mommy, what had her children truly uncovered? And would she be strong enough to learn the truth, or would it consume her entirely? The corridor twisted as she moved forward, each step echoing within her like a heartbeat. The flickering light revealed more grotesque faces, lingering just behind the memories she fought to ignore. Sarah felt sick, like she had crossed a line into something monstrous. "Mommy!" Alex called again, louder this time. But it was not him. It was the shadows, their laughter mocking her as they wrapped tighter around her, drawing her further into their embrace. "Come see. Why are you doing this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Cold wind streamed through the corridor, whispering secrets of what lay deep within. "Because you've forgotten." Lily's voice drifted to her, soft and sweet, yet laced with malice. It chilled her blood. "You don't remember how it feels to be loved, Mommy. You put it away." With every word, Sarah felt her will bend under the weight of despair. Memories she had buried long ago began to surface, dark and twisted. Laughter turned to screams, sunshine became shadows. The laughter of her children transformed into something sinister. "Don't look back," the shadows hissed, their breath icy against her skin. Heart racing, she moved closer, driven by both dread and hope to glimpse her children one last time. Something about the way they stood, their heads tilted, made her stomach churn. The corridor pulsed with energy, each wall throbbing in rhythm with her uncertainty. "Join us," the shadows whispered, their voices a chilling harmony that sank into her bones. "You know where you belong." She stopped in her tracks, fingers clawing at her hair. "What do you mean?" Suddenly, a blinding flash of light erupted, illuminating the corridor like a flash of lightning. For an instant, Sarah saw what awaited her, a room filled with framed photographs of generations, all wearing twisted smiles. Most were unrecognizable, lost souls trapped in a cycle. In the center stood a still image of her family, distorted Alex and Lily with hollow eyes. "No!" she cried, shaking her head in denial. "Mommy, don't be scared." They turned, and their faces melted into merging shadows, becoming something far less innocent. A wretched abyss opened up behind them, a gaping hole that pulsed, as if alive. The walls trembled, and dark tendrils reached toward Sarah, weaving around her wrists and ankles, pulling her deeper into the gloom. "Let them go!" she shouted, raising the knife, but her resolve was fading. "Mommy, please. It's time." Alex pleaded, desperation bleeding into his voice. Their eyes, hollow windows to a realm of horrors, held her captive with a sickly sweetness. "Time for what?" Lily smiled, but it was twisted, painful to look at. "To be with us forever." Suddenly, the shadows lunged, growing thick like fog, overwhelming her senses. She felt their cold embrace envelop her, whispering treacherous words of darkness. "Let me go!" she screamed, but her voice was lost amidst the roar of the shadows. What had been a corridor now expanded into a vast darkness filled with the cries of the lost. Did she dare tread deeper? Would her love be enough to battle the whispers of despair? "Mommy, don't fight it." A pulse of fear surged through her. Would she abandon her children to the darkness, or embrace the horror waiting to reveal her truth? Would she be strong enough to save them, or would she be trapped, screaming in silence, forever cursed to wander with the shadows? And just as the shadows closed in, her grip on the knife faltered. "Join us!" The laughter grew louder, a cacophony that clawed at her sanity, and for one fleeting moment, she saw a glimpse of light, a path that could lead her back. But was it a trick? The shadows surged, thick and hungry, and she was left with one agonizing choice. Would she venture into the unknown or remain lost in the darkness? Mommy, every breath felt heavier. She had glimpsed the brink of truth. Was she ready to face it, or would it consume her and send her spiraling into despair? In that moment of hesitation, a flicker of determination surged within Sarah. She fought against the cold grip of the shadows, pain coursing through her body like ice. With a sudden gasp, she swung the knife, the blade slicing through the thick black fog. "Get away from me!" she shouted, her voice raw and desperate. The shadows shrieked, recoiling like a wounded animal. Yet, as quickly as they withdrew, they surged again with a malevolent intensity, whispering her name in a chorus that twisted her heart. "Sarah! Mommy! Come back!" Each call seemed to curl around her, curling into her ear like poison. She staggered back, nearly tripping over the unseen ground that sunk beneath her feet. A familiar image crossed her mind, the warmth of Alex's embrace, the laughter of Lily as she twirled under the sunlight. Those moments flickered like the dying light overhead. Sarah closed her eyes, the memory brightening her resolve even as darkness beckoned to her, pressing around her like an unyielding fog. She opened her eyes, focused on the abyss behind her children. "You're not real." The shadows convulsed, breathing in anger. Searing pain seared her wrists where tendrils clung, tightening like a vice. "Mommy, see us." The voice was both their own and not. It echoed with the sound of countless children, all begging to escape from the hollowed monster they had become. The light pulsed again, this time a steady glow emanating from within the depths of her memories. It was the faint outline of the kitchen back home, a scene full of chaotic warmth, flour dusting the countertops, laughter ringing as they baked cookies together. "Please," she implored, feeling the knife slip from her fingers, clattering to the ground. "Mommy, you belong here, with us." They took a step forward, shadows twisting into grotesque forms, each visage a lost fragment of her past. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut tight, willing herself to wake up, to break the spell that seemed to trap her in their realm of twisted joy. But as the shadows inched closer, the abyss behind her children began to pulse. "You will remember." Their voices grew louder, engulfing her in a harmony of despair that resonated with her own sorrow. "Remember what?" Sarah cried, clutching her head, fingers trembling against the cold sweat that dripped from her brow. "Your truth," they sang, and suddenly visions exploded in her mind: grief, love, betrayal, and horror, all unfiltered chaos of a life she had tried to forget. A dark hand, slipping away while she begged for it to hold on. The shadows clung to her, drawing tight, whispering their horrifying truths until reality warped. Alex and Lily began to morph further, faces twisting until the innocent turned monstrous, their hollow eyes struggling to break through the layers of darkness. Sarah felt the last piece of her resolve fading. She had a choice: either succumb to the shadows' embrace or claw back against their siren call. A drop of warmth surged within her heart, igniting a spark. "No!" she screamed, defiance shaping her voice. With all her might, she charged forward, forcing the shadowy grasp to release. Pain lanced through her wrists, and she stumbled, but she kept moving, propelled by the hope, no matter how distant, that her children were still there. The corridor warped around her as she lunged toward the light, every fiber of her being screaming. But just as she nearly reached it, figures blocked her, silhouettes of those she had loved, their faces contorted in rage. "Join us." The shadows lunged again, claws extended into the fading light. The choice before her was clear, yet impossible. Would she confront the nightmare and risk losing everything, or would she turn her back on her own blood, choosing survival over love? Fear clamped around her throat as Sarah prepared for what came next. Would she break through? Or was she doomed to become just another memory lost in the shadows? Time stretched, and all she could feel was the impending doom closing in on her. Was this truly the end? The shadows lunged again, and Sarah's heart slammed against her ribs. She could feel their icy breath crawling across her skin, dragging her toward the abyss where hope flickered like a dying candle. "Join us." The voices echoed, a mix of sweet decay cloaked in familiar urgency. No. She had to fight. She forced herself to take a step back, then another, and another, her back brushing against the unseen boundary that held the light. Then, she glimpsed at a fleeting flash of clarity breaking through the nightmare. The kitchen, the warmth, the scene of unbroken joy. Her children's laughter rang like a warning bell, slicing through the darkness that threatened to consume her. "Alex! Lily!" she shouted, desperation lacing her voice, praying the sound of their names could tether her to reality. With a surge of adrenaline, she charged at the silhouette blocking her path. The shadows recoiled, momentarily stunned, but the figures morphed again, grotesque features contorting into something that resembled laughter, a cruel mockery of the joy she once knew. "Why would you leave us, Mommy?" one of them hissed, eyes glimmering with malice. "You abandoned us." "Never. I love you." Her defiance tasted bitter on her tongue. But was it enough? The mist shimmered, shifting around her, the oppressive weight nearly suffocating. Time flickered unervingly, moments stretching into eternity, making every second count with a suffocating intensity. She needed to remember to grasp a truth buried beneath the layers of the shadows. "Remember," they cooed, pulling her deeper into the darkness. "Your truth, Sarah." She felt something fracture within her, an intimate shard slicing through the memories, the guilt, the blame, the moments she had locked away. Faces swam before her, a parade of loss whispering accusations. "I didn't," she began, trembling, clutching her head as memories crashed over her like a cascading wave. Alex's laughter fading, Lily's cries echoing long after she should have dried the tears away. "No!" she screamed, a raw, primal sound rising from her gut. With renewed fury, she swung her arm through the shadows, ripping free one last burst of light. But it was too late, the abyss roared back, pulling her further, deep into the cavernous pit she had dreadfully created. Tendrils of darkness constricted around her neck, choking her breath, the murmurs swelling into a cacophony as they cried, "You will pay for your neglect." Sarah gasped, the shadows tightening, her vision blurring as she clawed at her throat. "I didn't mean to. I did everything I could. Please." Then it struck her, the realization hit like a bolt from the blue. She had not abandoned them. They weren't just shadows, they were fragments of her unprocessed grief, her guilt refusing to release her. If she accepted the truth behind their twisted faces, maybe she could free herself. "You're not lost. You're a part of me," she cried, feeling warmth surge against the icy grip. But as the shadows flickered, a burst of rage clawed at her heart. "No!" they shrieked in unison, ripping away the comfort she had found, dragging her back toward the inky void. The monsters around her closed ranks, shadows thrashing wildly, claws outstretched. "Face your past. Face it." The abyss trembled, and she felt something inside fraying, threatening to snap. Desperation clouded her vision as visions collided, Alex's smile, Lily's tiny hands reaching out, the joy mingled with a darkness too heavy to bear. In that moment of reckoning, she hugged the truth close. "You will not take me," she shouted, pushing against the darkness with all the strength she could muster, the memory of love grounding her. But as she pushed, the shadows wailed, the noise rising like a storm. Suddenly, the ground beneath her shook violently. The figures flickered, their rage threatening to explode. What was about to happen? Would she break free or be consumed by the very darkness she had created? As the shadows roared and the abyss threatened to collapse, Sarah braced herself. The journey was just beginning, and she had no idea what lay on the other side of the nightmare. A blinding light pierced through the shroud of darkness, momentarily halting the chaos around Sarah. She squinted, her instincts screaming for her to flee. But fight or flight was a decision that evoked a primal fear, surging through her veins like ice. The shadows, though, writhed and contorted, mocking her defiance. "You cannot hide from us, Sarah," they hissed, the tone slick with malice. They surged forward, a relentless tide that threatened to sweep her under. "Mommy, please." The voice sliced through her like a knife, thin and quivering. It was one of the shadows, sporting a face achingly familiar. The mangled version of her daughter stared, blue eyes dull, hopeless. We just want to play. Sarah felt the world teeter, a teetering bridge she was scared to cross. No. No. She shook her head violently, backing away, the air growing denser with every heartbeat. Join us forever. Don't you want to play? The haunting laughter echoed, bouncing around her like a twisted lullaby. They loomed, bathing her in an oppressive darkness, pulling her suffocatingly tight. But she wouldn't give in. Memories flickered like faulty bulbs, the warmth of her children, their hugs, the way they laughed like the sun breaking through clouds. I love you. I will find you. She yelled defiantly, forcing the warmth of love from her heart to blaze fiercely outward. The shadows drew back, thrum of hesitation palpable. But you forgot. You chose. They howled, the air vibrating like a taut string. You let go. You let them die. The accusation hit home, leaving her breathless and reeling. The fracture inside her widened, sorrow began to seep through, mingling with rage. Tears streamed down her cheeks, dripping into the darkness, and the shadows loomed closer again, drawn to her pain. You can't escape. They sang, circling her, like vultures over carrion. Yes, I can. Sarah's voice was a primal roar. You have no hold over me. She summoned the light again, pouring everything she had, love, loss, desperation, into a single pulsating beacon. It blazed brightly, illuminating the distorted, anguished faces cloaked in darkness. For a fleeting second, she saw them as they were, not monsters, but lost fragments of herself, aching for recognition. Suddenly, the oppressive cloud around her ripped apart, revealing a swirling vortex of swirling memories. There was Alex, laughing, racing around the kitchen, and Lily twirling in little circles with giggles echoing like chimes. Mommy! Help us! The echoes surged, now filled with genuine pleading. Not the sinister mockery she had known. It was real, rend with innocence, and steeped in the sharp pang of her heart. With a rush of clarity, she felt the shadows receding, the darkness that had held her captive losing its clutch. She had to take one more step, both toward light and toward shadow. As she stepped into the vortex, whirling flashes engulfed her, more warmth, and the laughter transformed into wild, desperate screams. But some of the cries were not her children. Mommy! Help! The voice came again, sharp and cutting. This time it didn't belong to Alex or Lily. Instead, a chill gnawed at her gut. This voice echoed from somewhere deep within the void, tugging at her insides, dark, terrifying, unfamiliar. No! Sarah's heart raced, fear crashing back in like an unforgiving wave. Please, no. But just as she reached the edge of the vortex, a black hand shot through, seizing her wrist. The grip was cold and strong, and she felt her heart plunge. This hand belonged to something else, something ancient, lurking beyond the veil. Face what you have done. You cannot escape the past. The hand pulled her closer. Her scream sliced through the air as she fought back. But the shadows were stronger than her memories, clawing her deeper into the void. As she struggled, fear washed over her, freezing her in place. What awaited her beyond this vortex? Would facing the darkness reveal her worst nightmare? Would she finally confront what she had tried to outrun, or would it all consume her forever? The grip of the shadow tightened, a vice of despair that twisted deeper into her mind. Sarah could feel her heart battling against the waves of darkness that threatened to drown her. Panic rose like bile in her throat. She couldn't breathe. Let me go! She cried, her voice barely recognizable, laced with fear and fury. But the shadow's hold was relentless. It dragged her deeper into the vortex, where memories tangled with nightmares, twisting her past into grotesque shapes. Flashes of her children shifted into figures blurred by shadow, laughter morphing into wails. A silhouette loomed ahead, an echo of something both cherished and horrific. Mommy, the voice called again. It was her son, Alex, but his tone now dripped with something darker, like honey tainted with ash. You left us. No. She thrashed against the coldness, panic blaring a siren in her mind. I didn't leave. I was trying to save you. The shadows pulsed around her, their laughter bubbling like black tar. Save them? One sneered, voice reeking of venom. You couldn't even save yourself. The vortex whirled faster, a cyclone of torment. The faces of Alex and Lily flickered, dancing just out of reach. Each wanted her, yet their expressions twisted in confusion and dread. Each sob, each shriek cut through her like shards of glass. Mommy. Please. Another voice intertwined, sharper but eerily familiar. It belonged to someone she should have forgotten. Sarah fought against the tide, remembering the sweetness of their voices before darkness claimed them. Enough. Sarah screamed, her fury igniting. You are nothing. You are just shadows. With an instinct she didn't understand, she delved deep within her, pulling forth every ounce of love, every bright moment she once shared. The light she had summoned before expanded like a supernova, pushing back against the tide of grim whispers. But just then, the shadows wove tighter, the world around Sarah seemed determined to tear her apart. Face the truth. They wailed. Your guilt will never set you free. She could feel it now, the weight of her failures pressing, suffocating. The truth clawed at her mind, reviving memories of that fateful day when everything shattered. The screeching tires of a car, the flashing lights, the echo of devastation, unforgiving moments fused together, burning in her heart. Stop. Just stop. She begged. But the shadows only laughed, a symphony of agony. They spun around her, forming a grotesque carousel of her deepest fears, the truth hanging over her like a guillotine. In that chaos, Sarah stumbled backward, her heart racing wildly. Suddenly, the memories shifted, coiling into one concentrated image, a single picture of her family laughing together under a sprawling oak tree. Their smiles blazed with warmth. It was the last day she had with them. Mommy. A yell pierced through everything, urgent and desperate. It was coming from the shadows, but this time it was different. It felt like a plea, not a taunt. Come back to us. Emboldened, Sarah surged forward, reaching into her heart. I'm coming. She shouted, the light radiating from her hands starting to break through the dark. But before she could touch that vibrant joy, a scream erupted from the shadows, a piercing wail of rage and fear. You cannot escape what you have done. Sarah faltered, the shadows swirling tighter than ever, grasping at her ankles, pulling her back toward the abyss. She felt the memories threatening to drag her down into torment, clawing at her mind. Had she lost everything for good? Were her past and present doomed to collide forever? A heartbeat later, she glanced back, and her children's faces lit up the darkness, peering through the chaos. Mommy. Help us. What awaited her now? Would the pull of the shadows drag her back down, or would the light of her love break the chains of despair forever? The thought gripped her as the vortex fluctuated, shadow and light battling for dominance. She had to decide now before she was lost entirely. The connection that tethered her felt impossibly fragile, but she couldn't give up. She couldn't let go. As she took a step forward, the shadows screamed, a roar of fury that threatened to drown out everything. The voice that echoed back to her was darker than anything she had ever faced, yet intensely familiar. And before her, the shadows parted slightly, revealing a chilling truth. Something lurking within the darkness was waiting, eager to unleash its wrath. What awaited her beyond the light? Would she face the truth of her past, or would she be consumed by the shadows forever? As the darkness churned around Sarah, she felt every fiber of her being straining against the weight of despair. The shadows hissed and snapped at her, their whispers rising like a storm. You belong to us, Sarah. You can't escape the wreckage you've made. No. she shouted, determination igniting within her. The memory of Alex's smile, the warmth of Lily's hug surged to the forefront of her thoughts, drenching her heart in light. You will not take me. You will not take them. With each word she spoke, the shadows recoiled, momentarily thrown off balance. Sarah felt a flicker of hope, a glimpse of the truth she had hidden away for too long. I will face my fear. I'll own my pain. The shadows writhed as if in agony. They swung in tight circles, their voices rising in chaotic howls. You can't outrun us. They screeched, not after what you've done. But Sarah pressed forward. The vortex pulsed with energy, a tumult of shadows and light spiraled violently around her. She formed a barrier in her mind, allowing only the love she had for her children to shine through. Each breath fueled the light. I loved you. I lost you. But I did not abandon you, she cried, voice trembling yet fierce. From the depths, she felt an echo, a desperate yearning. Mommy. Help us. Alex's voice reached out, clearer, more genuine than before. It filled her with resolve, forcing her to push against the shadows with everything inside her. Hold on. I'm coming. She shattered the chaotic connection of darkness that threatened to swallow her whole, a bright wave surging forward. It crashed against the dusky figures, unraveling their grip. No! They screamed, wailing in anguish as they shrank back into the swirling abyss. The vivid images of her children brightened in her mind, their laughter cascading over her like sunlight. It filled the void, simmering in the air, as the shadows jerked in frenzy. With renewed strength, she took back her voice. You are not my truth. You don't own me. She thundered, and the shadows screamed an echo of anger and fear that shook the very fabric of the void around her. The pool of shadows began to shatter, splintering into pieces. Light burst through like a dawn following a long night, blinding and freeing. Flickering memories scattered into mist, drifting away as joy poured in. You were never lost. I was the one who lost my way. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath her. The shadows recoiled, fizzling into wisps of darkness, retreating from her fierce honesty and love. Mommy. Alex. Lily. The joy of their names broke her heart wide open, ballet of love conquering even the darkest pain. In that moment, the abyss transformed, warmth bloomed around her like flowers breaking through frost. She leaped forward, arms outstretched, and felt their soft fingertips brush against her skin. Mommy. They cried, their sweet, innocent voices like bells ringing through the silence. The vortex twisted, pulling her closer to her children, and she embraced the light voraciously, reaching. A warm glow encircled her as she tumbled through the remnants of darkness, clinging fiercely to the love she had fought for. She felt laughter cascade around her, rich, beautiful laughter that spun her living memories of family joy. As she opened her eyes, everything surged, and she collided with soft sunlight, arms wrapped around both Alex and Lily. Mommy. They cheered, joyfully encapsulated in warmth and pure love. They were safe, they were whole, they were free. Tears streamed down Sarah's cheeks, relief flooding her senses. The storm that had once raged outside now seemed but a distant echo. She glanced around, the shadows of Maple Grove faded, breathing easier away from them. We'll be okay. I promise, she exclaimed, holding them tightly, savoring the sweetness of their laughter. And as the sunlight danced on their faces, Sarah knew that everything she had fought for, everything she had loved, was worth it. In the end, the darkness had not claimed them, rather, it had unveiled the truths she had to accept, the truths of loss, love, and the inescapable bond of family. Let us go home, Sarah whispered, as they walked together, hand in hand, toward a future reborn and bright, a future not overshadowed by fear but illuminated by love. But before they stepped beyond the threshold of Maple Grove, she turned back just once, a lingering gaze at the once haunted house, now just a place filled with memories. Thank you for making me fight, she murmured. As they stepped into the light shimmering ahead of them, Sarah felt her heart swell, knowing the shadows of guilt no longer haunted her. She had fought and she had won. If you loved this story, don't wait another moment. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive tales that will chill you to the bone. Smash that like button now to help our story reach even more fans. Your support matters more than you can imagine. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. I want to hear what you think. Finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Your support means everything. Thank you.